And it looks like we're live. Hi, everyone. I'm Airier, and I'm definitely on time because I set this for 12:45 and nothing else. And I didn't come late at all. Yeah, that's definitely the case. And no one in the chat who could say anything otherwise would definitely say otherwise because that's definitely being saved on this video to show I'm definitely on time. Like every time. Always. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Airier, and today we're going to check out Star Wars Warhammer 40k, Episode 41, I'm going to say Principles. Precipices? I cannot speak today. Precipices Part 1. This is the stuff I usually edit out because we're doing this live. I'm not going to. Which also includes just randomly having the video up right now because I just realized I could do that. Yeah, that's on me. More importantly, we're going to start this video now, which I definitely started on time and there's no evidence to suggest otherwise. Yep. Just like Shadow Walker in the chat said, you're on time. He is correct. I have never done otherwise. I'm glad we've had this talk. Moving up, going to start it right away. Okay. We have episode 41. Slow faded. Mortal Precipices. Part 1. I think I'm just going to say this word wrong every time. I'm doing it on purpose, though. Definitely not because I just can't say the word, apparently. Yes. We're doing this widescreen.
Farnus awoke with a start.
Oh,
he
was
flashing wide and swiveling.
So we're starting with Farnus, so that means we're going to also do Ahsoka as a secondary perspective, probably because, one, she was in the thumbnail I chose, because I just take my headphones off and put them over here while just taking screenshots to get an idea of what I'm going to have to take pictures of. It actually works. And two, we're starting from his perspective. So we're going to see what her commands look like from the outside. Okay.
In his skull. He ignored the pain that the bright lights around him pierced him with, pupils shrinking to pinpricks. Slowly, things began to come into definition. Yeah. White lights, steel walls, toy soldiers. The Imperial jerked as though he had been struck with an electric current, only to find his hands and feet restrained. Even his head was restrained, his waist as well, his biceps, his shoulders. His entire body was bound down into a medical bed, strapped with thick synthetic leather that didn't give him an inch.
You know, considering all the times where being in a medical facility happens in 40k, it's bad enough when it's on the Imperium side, which also could be horrible if there was more cogboys around. But if this was a bunch of alien Xenos who just took him hostage and he's suddenly strapped in the medical facility, biting off your tongue seems like the safer option. Because the people who take you alive in 40k are not the people you want to be taken alive by. The Tau are probably the nicest option. They would most likely just chemically castrate you if you do not agree to follow their religion. Which is definitely not a religion, even though there is literally a god because enough people believed it was a religion. I'm still amused by that.
Farnus could do little but wiggle and worm in a panic, eyes rolling from side to side. The replica he could see were mostly helmetless, sitting or laying unrestrained on other beds as they were tended to by machines. And not surgical servitors or manned pieces of equipment, but by bipedal, speaking, thinking machines. He screamed, eyes moving towards him at the sound, many of the clones breaking from what they were doing to stare at the conscious Imperial.
Yeah. Oh, they don't know about... Ahsoka might know about their proclivities against machines, but how many of the clones would know that yet? I mean, the commanders probably do, but would the base level troop know? This might actually be kind of funny to them.
And the attention made Farnus suck in his breath and cease his noise almost as quickly as he had let it loose. These were the enemy. They were the people who had killed Sergeant Norn, killed Janice, almost killed him and Nerva. The thought of her had his eyes rolling again. But no matter where they searched, there was no sign of the tech priest anywhere near him. Instead, they found the machine that was tending to him, its cold, bright mechanical eyes staring down at him from right beside his bed. Farnus could not help himself, bound, surrounded by foes, and now under the scrutiny of the abominable intelligence itself. The very force that had caused the Emperor to rise and take control of mankind.
What? This is actually kind of fascinating if fan would use that. I'm going to listen to it again to make sure.
Force that had caused the Emperor to rise and take control of mankind.
Huh. That is actually a very curious way to put that. That from his perspective, the Crusades, the Emperor of Mankind, came about specifically due to the Men of Iron. And I'm wondering if this is something Fan did intentionally, or is it Fan just saying that the generic population believes the Emperor came about due to machines? Because as an outside observer, we know that the Emperor came about due to the aftermath of the machines, the aftermath of Old Night, which would be a mix of the machines and the psychic plague that came on. I'm just going to call it plague because frankly, it more or less fit the conundrum of that. It was all the monsters, all the chaos, all the machines and the Xenos and all the things that happened after the old Federation collapsed. And then warp travel was cut off. It happened in that order. I'm wondering then, is he from a location that is more the machines are the reason? Or is that just how Fan is portraying the common understanding of the reason for the Emperor 10,000 years after he did it? I don't entirely know. And that could easily change between planets. From the outside, we know that the Age of Machines did not cause the Emperor to act, because he only acted after that. And then also after warp travel was cut off because the birth of Slaanesh was pending, and only restarted the conquest when that ended. So this is actually a very interesting point, that this is the specific reason they're doing it. If Fan was here, I'd ask him, but I think because I definitely didn't start late, he's moved on to different things. So that's on me.
The young guardsman pissed himself. The countless stories of horror he had been raised with all occurring to him. Speaking in the voices of his most trusted elders, his companions, his friends. He had always known he would probably die fighting monsters like this.
Yep.
But he had not died. He had been captured. And the very concept of what he imagined would happen to him next was enough to make his heart falter. Enough to lose control
Please tell me just ask
completely.
If moves on.
Please be calm. Your heart rate is reaching an alarming level. If you do not calm down, I will have to administer a sedative.
The machine said.
That's the calmest thing Fan could have written, and I think it's the funniest, because if you do not control your heart, we will control it for you. Sounds absolutely terrifying if you filter it through the layer of, oh god, I'm going to die, or worse. It's actually kind of funny.
Speaking Gothic. To that, Farnes felt faint, hyperventilating as the AI monstrosity reached forward with its left arm, a limb ending in no hand, but rather a large needle. The approach of the point made his chest hurt, his body shivering and trembling so much it seemed he may be having a seizure. He won't need one, said a voice, a familiar voice, and the machine stopped, looking up and behind the bed Farnes was bound to.
He will faint or suffer.
The machine began to say, I'll take care of it. Go tend to Sando, he's been asking for an update on his arm, said the voice again. Feminine, accented, familiar, and yet not. Where had he heard that voice before? He tried to focus on that, breathing slightly more easily as the machine nodded its head and stepped back and away, marching down and past the row of beds Farnes was a part of and leaving his sight. Calm down, said the voice from behind him, and, oddly, he felt a placidity pass through him, his breath rushing out more slowly,
so she's using
his heart
force
feeling
on him.
less pained as it too slowed down, though it still hammered hard in his chest. No one is going to hurt you. Just take a few deep breaths, said the hidden voice.
This is the best part. We get to see if his mental fortitude is enough to throw off a Jedi's mind game. Because usually the way to see if you're a red shirt or an actual character is, do you throw it off? If you throw it off, you're a real character. If you don't, you're going to be red shirted. That does seem to be the entire joke in Star Wars. They don't do it nearly as much, but it kind of is a thing.
Do you think I'm a fool?
Yes.
Farnes spat, struggling in his restraints again, the
and he's
small
fighting
calm her previous words had imparted fleeing him like birds from a struck
Yep.
tree. I remember your voice now. You're that Xenos, the one with the horns. I won't tell you anything. I am Farnes Ilatin, Minotaurum designation 21411 of the...
Says he'll tell you nothing. Immediately tells you everything.
174th Vestillan Imperial Irregulars, Infantry Division! He blurted, his eyes looking to the left and to the right, but still unable to see her. Well, okay. I thought you just said you weren't going to tell me anything. The voice behind him said, bemused. Farnes blushed heatedly at that. tightening his jaw as much as he could. Listen, Farnes, was it? I just want you to calm down. The alien began to say again, to which Farnes cut in. I am Farnes Eliton, Minotaur of the designation 21411 of the 174th. It is still in...
And they're doing the thing you're supposed to do when you're captured, where you just continue to repeat who you are, your designation, who you work for, which is something that you do now. Also, doesn't matter. If they were actually going to torture him, it would not matter in the slightest. It's a nice thing to say, just like, I'm going to stick to it as long as I can. No, that's stupid. It's a good way to annoy your captors. Or to let them know exactly how many units there are in a force that you're not entirely sure about, and gives them an idea of just how large their force is. But you would have already had that, considering they do have some intel on the force they're fighting against, in the sense that it's not native. So, useful. That's debatable.
Imperial
Also, the AI art fan chose is really weird on the hand.
Regulus Infantry Division! He interjected, barely able to keep his words straight, such was the obvious fear packed within his throat. There was a pause then, Farnes's breathing continuing to rasp in and out at too rapid a pace. He felt lightheaded, the fear mixing with his struggling and hyperventilating to drain him even further of his strength. Listen to me, Farnes. You need to slow your breathing down or... She began
or
again.
He'll pass out, which might be an
I
option
am
for him.
Farnes Eliton, Minotaur designation 21411 of the 174th Astillan Imperial Regulars Infantry Division. He barked out again. This time he heard her sigh, an exasperated sound as the Xenos finally realized what he was doing.
Yep.
There was a 30-second pause then, one in which Farnes made no attempt, conscious or otherwise, to calm down. He felt like he was going to throw up, especially as his eyes focused on what he could see in place of trying to spot
If you knock
what he
yourself
could
out,
not,
you can't speak.
noticing again all of the scowling, murderous clones. Listen, I only want to... The alien warrior started again, but again, Farnes did not let her get far. I am Farnes Eliton, Minotaur designation 21411
At this point, she should probably just let him pass out and keep going.
174th Astillan Imperial Regulars
God.
Infantry Division. She sighed more heavily this time, a puff of irritated frustration. Farnes Eliton, you are shaming your commander! The woman snapped out from behind him, speaking faster than he could interject. You have allowed yourself to be captured. You have soiled your uniform, and you are panicking in the face of the enemy.
God damn, Ahsoka, you're not pulling blows on this one.
She continued authoritatively, her words
How much of
smacking the
this
young
does she know
soldier
would
back to a
affect
lower
them
awareness, feeling
based
the
on
cooling
talking to
heat from his
detectives, though?
cowardly loss of control, his fear transmuting into shame and defeat in seconds. Breathe properly or stop breathing, she added, her last scolding remark for...
I'm wondering if fans going to mention that she's doing this because she spoke to the tech priest and has some idea of their psychology, or if she's assuming he has general military psychology of shame because you fucked up is a good reason to shock someone. Because his panic is actually a really good way to knock himself out, which admittedly, from his perspective, might be the best option. I honestly could see this go either way, because while I only know this secondhand from family members who are in the military, they have nightmares about pissing off their sergeant. So maybe that's what's going on. I don't know.
Forcing him to begrudgingly obey. Still shuddering, he closed his eyes deliberately, breathing in and out more slowly, forcing himself to do so. Her words echoed in his head, voiced by his own sergeant and commissar trainer, knowing it was exactly what they would say. In fact, it was more lenient than what they would have done.
They would have shot him.
The sergeant would have begun cursing Farnes and his entire family, and the commissar likely would have shot him dead without a word to spare. The thoughts chastened him, reminding him of his combat breathing. He breathed in for 4 seconds, held it for 4 seconds, and then breathed out again for 4 seconds. His timing was horribly off as he counted the moments in his head.
Wait, Fan just described box breathing. Good technique. It actually is a real thing. Cool.
But just the attempt began to have an effect on him. I am Farnes Eliton, Munitorum designation 21411 of the 174th Astillan Imperial Regulars Infantry Division. He managed to
Fan, I have some very significant questions about the AI art you chose on this one. Why does this guy have a hand bigger than his face with multiple fingers that don't actually have fingers but claws that are splitting from other fingers? Like, this is weird even for AI.
Stutter, half breathe out. Good, I mean, better, that's better, said the voice from behind him, attempting to maintain her effective edge. Now, soldier, I have questions I need to ask you. Your life could well depend on the answers you give me, she said, tone softening only slightly, but remaining mostly rigid and hard. I am Farnus Eliton, Munitorum designation 21411 of the 174th Vastilian Imperial Irregulars Infantry Division, Farnus repeated. There was another pause then, though it did not last as long as the last one. Farnus, do you serve the motive force?
Oh, is she really trying this tack? I was fully expecting her to drop something about how we found your, how would he refer to her as? Probably squad mate, because she doesn't know the division between them. Probably assuming that because they were together, Nerva was part of the squad. And asking, how do we get her out safely? Or, we found her, something's wrong. How do we fix this? I was assuming that's what he would be thrown with. But no, she's going immediately to the motive force. Which... That could be a very loaded question. I don't know nearly enough about Farnus to guess if Fan is playing him off as a religious zealot or not. He's in 40k, so there's going to be some level of zealotry, but that also depends on the unit, the world he comes from, which I just don't have nearly enough information about. The argument she's making for a very religious faction could backfire or work. But for someone who's more, I don't care, fuck you, I just want to kill Xenos, which I don't think Farnus is, but if his world is more secular like that, playing to the religious aspect of the Force and the God Emperor might not be the best option. Might shock him regardless, though.
She asked. Eyes still closed, he felt his face screw up in confusion. The motive force? Wasn't that a Mechanicus concept?
Yep.
Farnus understood the role of the Omnissiah as the Emperor and the Machine God as his greater aspect as relates to machines. But the motive force? Wasn't that what tech priests thought powered their reactors and made Promethium burn? Of course, he voiced none of these internal thoughts.
But he's thinking
He said something else instead. I am Farnus Eliton, Munitorum designation 21411 of the 174th Vastilian Imperial Irregulars Infantry Division, he repeated. Another, more exasperated sigh was heard.
So is Ahsoka able to feel his confusion at the question and take that as the answer beyond his words or not? I have no idea how empathic she is in her abilities or not. So this is... could be a non-question or not. I honestly have no idea.
Followed by the longest pause yet. Farnus was silent, as was she, but the room was not. And he heard the murmuring and speaking of the replicate all around him. They were speaking something called Galactic Basic, of which Farnus had only managed to learn a few phrases.
He learned any of it already?
Aside,
damn.
They sounded so human.
I mean, also because the ones he's talking to are mostly human. Hell, even the ones that aren't human are probably just genetically diversified from humans because of evil alien overlord bugs fucking around. Which is apparently, from what I've been told, and then cited links to, actually a reason. Yeah, so that's a thing.
Some laughed, some were groaning and whining about their injuries. Many were speaking in various tones, all similar to what he had heard as a soldier among other soldiers, with one glaring, uncanny exception. All the voices sounded the same. Okay.
Yep.
I understand why you don't want to speak to me. You are a soldier, doing as you were trained to... She began to say from behind him. I am Farnus Eliton, Munitorum designation 21411
I think she's
of the
getting fed up.
174th Vastilian Imperial Irregulars Infantry Division. He droned out, cutting her off. Do. She finished after he did, sounding frustrated. If you interrupt me again, I'll have to gag you.
This is where you stop listening to what they say and talk over them to get the idea across, and then just try and figure out what they're hearing from it. Because again, he will eventually break if they decide to go full evil torturer. But also the information you get at that point is useless, but they're Sith adjacent in their leadership right now. I don't think they do it yet as long as Ahsoka's the one doing it. But it sounds like Mace, if he gets hold of him, would definitely do it. It really just comes down to if fan wants to portray it as torture definitely gets you the information you want. Or torture gives you the information you want, even if it's not real.
She said quickly in follow-up, and Farnes felt a spike of frustration hit him at the idea of another restraint being thrown onto him. Gritting his teeth behind his lips, he said nothing more. Like I was saying, I understand. I won't ask you to say anything, but just listen, please, she said, and the way her voice and the emotion in it sounded gave him chills.
Because he's hearing emotion from a Xeno who, for him, shouldn't be capable of doing that, which is not true in the 40K side, but he wouldn't know that, and the people he would come in contact with would definitely never change his impression. Also, Shadowwalk, you mentioned Ahsoka isn't part of the Order. She probably wouldn't, and I'm assuming torture. It's not so much that I think she wouldn't because she's part of the Order or not. It's more, I think Mace Windu is in charge of the conflict theater at the moment, at least on the ground, and he's really far down the path of fuck it. So, maybe? I don't know.
If he had not seen her corrupt alien form before, he would have thought her entirely human. How much of this could he trust? He quickly decided none of it, but he had no choice but to continue to listen, even as he swore to himself that he would not be shifted. My name is Ahsoka Tano,
means nothing.
and I'm only here for one reason. Your people, your Imperium, are killing thousands. And I do not mean soldiers or Jedi. I mean you are killing innocent people, murdering them in a world that is not yours. People who are not harming or hurting anyone before you came.
Later.
I want that to stop. And I don't want to kill you or anyone else to make it stop, she said.
I just had an uncomfortable realization. Ahsoka has a better chance right here of talking the Imperial faction down than she does of unfucking the Star Wars side for what we know is about to happen next normally. Oh, jeez. Van made a point in one of the earlier after talks that he had to create more evil characters on the Imperium side because he was accidentally making them the out-and-out good guys. And that's one of the funny moments right now. She could accidentally succeed too much here. It's not impossible. I don't think it'd be likely if the Crimson Razors have a say, but I could see a certain, definitely not descended from Magnus guy who's impersonating a Ultramarine follower maybe doing that. Whether he would stay true to it or not, I could see him entertaining it if it gives them reason to win without having to fight nearly as hard because they can move on to other theaters, like the droids. I don't know, but that would be fascinating to me. Because again, the chances of making this argument in the Senate to get anyone in power on the Star Wars side to agree with it, not a chance. Oh, and also, Colin Turner, thank you very much, man. Since this is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, do you think it's possible the Silent King is wandering around here? That would depend on if they're transferring galaxies or transferring universes. Because this is actually a very unique concept where it sounds more like fan is treating this like universes, and it probably is universes. But if Earth is present in ours, and technically it's just far away, long time ago, separated by the divide of time and space, as opposed to 40K, which is our world, but far in the future, for all we know, it's transferring universes in the sense that maybe the Emperor remembers the Star Wars side and that's where he came from. And they're just working on the timeline theory of this is a different universe in the sense that it's a different timeline. And chaos is fundamentally different at this time period. Or because chaos seems to be limited to the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy specifically, and doesn't have much understanding outside of that, but can go laterally into other universes like the Age of Sigmar side and some minor universes that are just weird exhibitions of what the fuckery. That is actually entirely possible because chaos might exist in this universe and be there, but limited to their cancerous growth around the psychic space of the Milky Way. That is actually debatable because there is nothing extragalactic other than the Tyranids that we know of inside of 40K. And that's one of the reasons it's actually a fascinating question. I have no idea. It's probably other universe, but Fan does have leeway in the canon of both series to make it possible to not do that. Would he do it? I don't know. And would it matter? functionally, it probably wouldn't. But it'd be fascinating all the same. Also, if Fan was here to answer the question himself, I don't think we've summoned him hard enough. We need more chanting in the chat.
Said. Varnus licked his lips, but kept his silence. Lies, he knew. But she sounded so sincere. Could any human lie this well?
Yes.
An alien
Yes.
ploy.
Oh God, yes.
A Xenos trick, like an insect imitating another to sneak into the hive. He would not fall for it. He knew there would be a catch. There had to be. I am a knight of the motive force. I do not want any more of it to be wasted in this fight. The more blood that is spilled needlessly, the harder it will be to stop. And if we do not stop, there might be nothing left of either of us, Republic or Empire. We do not know why you are attacking us, and I need to know why. Why is this happening?
Oh, yeah, just that little reminder right here that she doesn't know it's Palpatine's fault. Would the Imperium faction have done this regardless? Yeah, definitely. There's no doubt in my mind they would have done this regardless. But they're completely in the right because they're the aggrieved party. And by completely in the right, I mean, in the right, which is admittedly for the 40k side, way more in the right than they can usually be sometimes, unless it's against chaos, in which case literally everything goes. Ooh, and we get a lot more chance of Fan in here. Oh my. The last time I saw him here, someone asked him a question about an isekai. Hopefully he didn't get isekai'd himself. Make sure there's no buses going around.
What do you know about the reason for this war? She asked, almost pleaded. But at her words, her obvious attempts to deceive him, he felt no compassion. Instead, a new sensation came over him. Rage.
Because he
clenched his jaw, his brow furrowing as his eyes remained tightly shut.
Fight, but I'm not sure how much.
You won't tell me anything? You're happy to just watch your friends and fellow soldiers die pointlessly to... She began to say. Shut up! Just shut up!
And she
your
broke
tricks
through.
Won't work. We all know why this...
And that's why this is how it always works. People want to speak. You don't ever do that long term. Also because if he did, it would be a useless character trope and never succeed.
This war is happening. You know why. You did this. You did this. He bellowed, fire in his chest bursting from his lips in a vicious rebuke. Are you talking about the ship that was hyperspace rammed? We don't know why that happened. The woman behind him insisted. It is against our laws to do that kind of thing. We are still investigating, and we would probably know more if... She continued, but again, could not finish her sentence.
Would Marcus know about that?
This isn't just about the Atlas of Steel. You fracking alien! You monster! You predator! He railed, struggling and pulling on his bonds again. You are not allowed to sound so innocent! You can't pretend you don't know what you do to us! I've heard it! I've seen it! He continued. Worlds turn to worse than ashes! Death that never ends, living inside your body with no control of your mind! We've killed you! We've killed you on 1,000,000,000 billion worlds!
Because in the 40k side, the aliens that aren't monsters are all dead, because the aliens that are monsters are basically the Tau, and they're getting there. They give them time. I'm sure in a few editions they'll be just as monstrous as the rest. They're slowly being turned into there because they weren't monstrous enough and 40k made a mistake. According to the fans. Honestly, I don't mind it, but yeah. And I think what Fan is using here is a picture of the... I know I've heard of this faction. Not even a faction. Although I thought this was the psychic bugs that basically... Enslavers, that's the word, yeah. Hey, a Fan made it. It looks like everyone chanting Fan's name in the chat did actually bring him. Noise.
And it still isn't enough for you to just leave us alone! Varnus
conflating
screamed.
every Xeno in one galaxy
I've
with
seen
another.
the bodies! I've seen the cities and the survivors! You keep us like cattle! You eat our minds and steal our souls!
Oh no, he's conflating the fact that she's a psyker, not the fact that she's a Xeno. Okay. That also is even more terrifying. Although, admittedly, the Xenos that do it are probably just as bad.
Never enough! Never enough! You lie, betray, and backstab! Every word, every act you take is not only to destroy us, but devour us! Enslave us! Corrupt us! I've seen it! You cannot lie to me! His words grew heavier on his lips, his protestations evoking horrid memories within his mind, filling the darkness behind his closed eyes. I saw The people we pulled out of those black slavers' ships. You tortured them.
Oh, no, he's definitely talking explicitly about... If it's black slavers, I'm assuming it's the Dark Eldar. Yeah, that would do it.
You ate them while they still lived. You turned them into furniture, you sick fracks. I had to kill them. I had to kill them because you wouldn't let them die. I was there in the aftermath of the razing of Celestine City. I saw it! Civilians herded into pens and arenas, made to fight against you even though you were bigger, stronger, even though they did not want to fight, even though you had already won. It just was not enough.
Smaller than a space
marine. You smashed them, you fracks, in front of their children, and then you smashed the children. You monsters! Aliens! Every one of you! Every single one!
And that's the general consensus in 40K. All aliens are the same. Which is completely inaccurate. Some are worse. Yeah. Still think the Hood is one of the most terrifying things, depending on how it's portrayed, and how much awareness you have during the effect. Also, considering how most of the Dark Eldar work, these were people. Ugh.
He paused then, chest heaving, panting as he caught his breath for a couple of moments. We will never stop, he breathed out. Because you will never stop. You hunted us in the darkness for thousands of years. You made us fall, made us bleed and suffer and die.
Is he talking about Old Night? Because that was 100,000 years prior to what he's talking about. No, it's 10,000 years, not 100,000 years. It's still a long time, though. Was it 10,000 or 100,000? 40K. Never mind. It had to be 10,000.
Well, no more. Now we hunt you. Now we come for you.
And also, he's displaying the type of hatred that is incredibly powerful, but also very fragile. This is not fear of the enemy. It's fear of association. Based on his own inference. He's seen what the enemy looks like. But he's also grouping them all in together. So as soon as he sees differentiation, his idea will probably change. So I think he'll probably be an ally, or at least go down a similar route to the Tech Priest, who we haven't seen in quite a while. It has actually been, what, 20 episodes now? Oh.
That is the gift the God Emperor gave us. He gave us power and unity and armies so that we would not have to just...
Unity. In universe? Sure. Outside of universe. Oh, that just sounds depressing. It sounds like a child saying, I'm a big boy. You just know, oh, that just makes it worse.
Take it anymore. You were the predators, but now we are the hunters. Us, mankind, humans. We are not your cattle or your toys or your fracking slaves.
Oh yeah, he's definitely going to
We
work
are
with
your
her at the end of
enemy.
this.
And we will spill your blood until you and everyone and everything that serves you is cast out of existence. We won't be afraid of you anymore. We hate you. We will always hate you. We will fight you to our dying breaths and beyond. We will tear at you and gouge at you like you did us. Like you hurt us, fracking aliens, fracking heretics. We have greatness now. We won't let you take it away. Die! Die, Xenos! Do us all a favor and just die! Die! Die!
I'm sorry, I'm actually taking this way less seriously. I know this is supposed to be a really big moment, but all I can hear here is a man clinging to his rhetoric because he's absolutely terrified that it's not conforming to reality. And I absolutely love this. And if Fan had just done this immediately with Farnus, I would maybe believe this is his entire mentality. But no, we've seen the scared kid who's just trying to make this work. And you can see that what he's saying right now is what he's trying to cling to. But he is so mentally broken that this is just another panic attack for him. And I think, I wish I knew how much Ahsoka was feeling on her end, but seeing this from her perspective might make it seem like he's actually a monster, as opposed to he's a scared kid who has seen shit he did not want to see and is conflating everything together. Also, just going to throw it out there randomly because orcs are on the screen. They are probably one of the least morally dubious groups in all of 40k. They do monstrous things because they like it, but also it's usually very straightforward. Yeah. So they treat everyone the same. You ain't orc, you ain't crumpet enough. Sometimes they will use you, sometimes they won't. Yeah, that's, sometimes they'll also eat you, but sometimes they won't. And they'll do that to themselves as well. Like I said, it's kind of fucked up where they're the nice guys. You know, they just like the wog. And to put, as Matthew Daughtry said, PTSD is a bitch. Yeah.
The young man raged, tears streaming from his tensed, closed eyes, finally falling into relative silence as he panted more heavily and caught his breath. There was a long silence then, even most of the repliques ceasing their speaking after his tirade. And
because they might have known these guys were the big bad, but he's telling them something right now that they wouldn't have known. What the normal person thinks and why. So talking about how the monsters hunting them, hurting them, enslaving them, hurting them back. This is, we are monsters because you made us, not we are monsters because fuck you. Well, that's debatable in the 40k timeline if that has to be that way. For the average person, it's very much accurate. And for him, after having any experience with the Dark Elder and surviving, it makes a lot of sense. But he still sounds like he's just a kid who's broken and really out of his depth and panicking.
And he expected that soon he would be dead. Dead, or worse. And that, either way, it would be painful.
And this is why I think he's definitely going to work with Ahsoka, because the one thing she can do right now that would shatter his understanding of reality is not be monstrous.
He felt a warm hand lay over his shoulder. He flinched and tried to pull away. He expected agony to follow. He did not expect what happened next. "I'm sorry all of that has happened to you," said the voice behind him. "No, you're not! Stop lying!" He yelled back. "I am not lying. I hate to hear this. I hate to see how much you must have gone through. But you are wrong," she said firmly. "Wrong about what? I told you I've seen," he began to say. "Wrong about everything," Ahsoka snapped, cutting him off. "Wrong about the Republic. We don't want to do anything."
Ooh. Oh, yeah, that. Oh, this is one of those moments where outside knowledge makes everything she's about to say hurt. Oh, God, I even know it already. She's barely even finished it.
Ahsoka snapped, cutting him off. "Wrong about the Republic. We don't want to do anything like that to anybody. For the Force's sake, there are more human senators than there are alien ones."
Accurate, but also... oof. The Republic doesn't. The Empire, though. Ah, that just... God. How is this the part that gut punches me? Because it's highlighting that she literally still believes in the goodness of it and hasn't seen that they have already fallen. They're just waiting to announce it. Oh, God damn.
"You're wrong about your reactions to these things that have happened to you. Wrong to become the monsters you so hate. To do to everyone what they have been doing to you."
And the worst part is, she's not wrong that it's not wrong to do it, but in 40k it might actually be required. Maybe, because there is some debate about that, but it's not important right now.
"You're even wrong about me being an alien." Another pause. Are you a mutant? An aberration then?" he asked. He knew he was not supposed to like mutants any more than aliens.
But
he
it's
had
permissible.
known quite a few growing up, and he knew they were not as bad. Most were hardly bad at all. I don't really know," she admitted. "Could you explain to me what an abhuman is?" she asked a moment later.
Oh, he's alive? Oh, I thought Fenn just put him on a bus. Well, that's actually shocking. He's oh no. Oh no. You know, he was in the thumbnail. At first, I thought it was a certain flesh cape enthusiast, and now I'm thinking, oh no, it's just a certain inquisitor who would like to watch the flesh cape enthusiast. Oh no.
Rather resilient, aren't you?
The black-eyed inquisitor said, drawing back and away from the heaving, bleeding body of Quinlan Voss. Voss could not respond, merely hanging from his restraints limply, his body bare from the waist up, his tan skin crisscrossed with lines of red, dripping more of his own life's blood down into a shallow pool beneath them. His mess of dreadlocks had been shaved off of his head, leaving him bald, his scalp and face not spared from the tender mercies of Tarweiler's hand.
No words left in you then.
How many other people are
Well, maybe we are making some progress.
The shark-toothed Imperial said with a wide grin.
It just occurred to me, and I probably should have figured this out earlier. Who is coming to the rescue? It's going to be a rematch, and I know who my money's on.
Go, frag yourself.
And that is the most respect
Quinlan
I've had for him
managed
ever.
to pant out weakly, prompting a laugh from Tar, who reached forward with his free hand and tilted his face up. Voss's eyelids having been cut away, leaving him no shelter, even in darkness.
Oh, there it is. That stubborn strength you still have hidden away. I must admit,
Man,
you would have made a fine inquisitor.
anything you think makes a fine inquisitor is probably the biggest insult to Quinlan I can imagine. And I've heard a lot of insults to him. That is probably one of the worst.
Had you been born on the right side of reality?
The Imperial agent hissed venomously.
To resist me this much, I can count on one hand the amount of sentience that had managed that. You should take pride in it. I give you permission to.
He purred, his dark eyes meeting with Voss's permanently wide ones.
But you will break. I will find where you are hiding that strength sooner or later. And yank it out. Just you wait.
He said, dropping Voss's chin, allowing his head to hang limply once more.
In truth, I do not take as much pleasure when I must perform this procedure on a fellow human.
Okay, I was going to say that's obviously lie, but no, I think he's telling the truth here. He takes immense pleasure, but if it's not human, he takes even more. It's not that he doesn't, it's that there's an upper limit that he hasn't reached yet, and he's not going to here. This is just general garden variety amazing. Why is everyone... Matthew, why are you putting eyes in the chat? Oh, because he has no eyelids, yeah. Fan, why are you so good at torture and horrible scenes? What? Why? I'd say who hurt you, but you're right, so I already know it happened. Oh, God.
I had so been looking forward to exercising my talents on that slippery blue bitch I caught earlier. But alas, fate does twist. I wonder if she would have been as resilient. I doubt it, however. Xenos rarely manage it. So proud and arrogant, never imagining themselves falling prey to a mere human.
He mused aloud.
You are not a human.
The defeated Jedi rasped from
I love how, one, he's not going to care at all, but that's probably the best insult you can give to an Inquisitor. He'll ignore it because, asshole, but it's probably the best option he had.
beneath his copious agony. In response, The scalpel sank into his left pectoral muscle, carving down through his chest in a precise line before turning at a right angle and meeting the line of another cut which had been made before. Voss shuddered and wheezed, having lost the strength to scream hours ago.
My. When will you learn that heresies only prompt more?
The man holding the knife began to say,
I just need to take a moment to appreciate the fact that he can still say something is heresy. I'd say it's the balls on this man, but I think it's more accurate to say the sheer ignorance of self-awareness on this man. Oh, dear God.
before there was a beeping in his pocket, forcing him to trail off. Tar slowly withdrew the knife, drawing out a pleasing whimper from the man he had sunken it into, before placing the newly bloodied implement on a tray nearby, and reaching down into one of his many pockets and withdrawing a communication bead, which he plugged into his ear.
Yes?
Is this about
The
orbital
Imperial
fleet leaving?
hissed. He listened for a time then, and Voss silently hoped the moment would never end as he stared into the pooling slick of his own blood gathering on the floor beneath him. He barely had any thoughts left in his head, very nearly all of them having been stripped by the agony from his mind. Voss had been tortured before at the hands of the Sith, at the hands of Dooku.
Yeah.
But that had been nothing compared to this. This had not merely been torture, not just pain. This had been violation of the body, mind, and even soul. He coughed feebly, hoping the act would draw no more attention to him. He had been Quinlan Voss, proud and tested knight of the Jedi Order. Now he really did not know what he was. Aside from that, he was a broken thing, broken in so many ways, but not broken enough to surrender to this thing.
Huh. I'm actually respecting Voss a lot more for this. Normally, I have the impression of him that he's someone's OC don't steal who just happened to get canon Star Wars approval prior to Disney buying it. And I kind of avoided what he did because his storyline was kind of all over the place. Yeah, some parts were good, some parts were bad. It just seemed a little all over the place for me. Like they didn't really know what they were doing. They decided to wrap it up. And he was one of the early examples of, well, maybe a few Jedi survived. And I'm sure someone might have gone back and fixed that later, but I don't actually know because I never cared enough to do it. But here, just the idea that I'm broken, I recognize that, I don't even know who I am, my entire identity is shattered, but still being strong against that is actually really cool. I'm kind of surprised a fan would do that, considering I was under the impression this guy was getting the bitch stick thrown at him for the stuff that happened earlier on the bridge, specifically.
This Inquisitor. But he did not
Also,
know for how much
Kubik,
longer that would be true.
your art's really
He
too
wasn't
good on
even
this one
sure
right
it
now.
wasn't true now. He resisted still. But did he resist because he willed it so? Or was the Inquisitor toying with him, dragging out his every agony, elongating his torture on their joint path to the inevitable? A trembling fear
Was this like AI generated Nosferatu? Because, okay, sure.
that made his every pain reignite shuddered through him as
Wyler's definitely
once
having fun
more
with
the
this.
taloned hand of Tar Wyler cupped his chin ever so gently and lifted his vision up to meet the horrid Imperial's black eyes.
It seems my ship has arrived. I'll be taking you and the others with me, of course.
Others? I was hoping they all just died because that would be safer, but no. No. Wait. The Imperial fleet in orbit was retreating. If they're not coordinating with Tarwyler on the ground, what are the chances he evacuates to orbit and they've already left? I kind of hope that's going to happen. I doubt it because narratively that would not be nearly as satisfying. I don't think Fan would drop the ball like that, but that would be freaking hilarious, man.
Our game is not yet done, and I think we both know who is going to win.
The creature that called itself
Putting
human
my money on Anakin on this one.
said,
Who he works with at the end, I have no idea.
Voss tried to say through torn lips, trying to curse his name, to resist, but he lost the strength to finish, making the man chuckle hideously.
Yes. And soon, we. But let's not get.
We?
Yes.
And chuckle, but he lost the strength, trying to curse his name. The man.
And soon, we. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Getting to orbit?
He said,
We're working
cruelly,
together.
letting Voss's head slump once more.
I'll be back. Just have to make some final preparations.
The nicest thing Ayla could do right now is accidentally blow up the building they're in and put him out of Wyler's misery. Or if we're lucky, Wyler just trips and falls and breaks his neck and somehow doesn't fix it. Because at this point, I'm assuming he probably has some kind of bullshit psych or contingency to make that happen.
The Inquisitor said, turning from the dark metal room and walking up a flight of stairs, vanishing. There, in the darkness, alone at last, Voss felt his dry eyes begin to well with tears. He fought them, he truly did try. But soon, the once mighty Jedi began to weep, his tears burning the wounds around his eyes and across his face as they slid down his chin and joined the blood beneath him.
I could see Fan taking this two ways. The way I think he's taking it is Wyler is going to just do what he said and get the ship ready and then just move him because he'll have his fun later. The more insidious way would be Wyler is still in the room and just let Voss believe it. And Voss learning that he's still there watching him break down, that his defiance finally ended when he thought he was alone, would just be another knife in his back, followed by probably an actual knife in his back.
The pain he felt was so deep, and the things that man had taken from him, their absence, ached like no pain he had ever known before. The Sith knew nothing of this. Dooku and his tortures had been child's play to this. His Force lightning having been painful, but also selfish. An expression and indulgence of the power the Count had held, but not the truest way to defeat Voss's mind. This man was entirely different, more subtle, and more cruel by far. He wept until he felt that hand once more cup his chin, sniffing, trying to halt his tears. He had not even heard or sensed Tarwyler's return, having intended to snuff his weakness when he heard the man coming back into the room.
Is it Tar
But as his head was tilted up, he saw a different visage through his blurry, unblinking eyes. Oh, master.
Oh shit, she's actually good at
said
hiding.
Ayla Sakura, cradling his head with both hands and looking horrified. Voss was barely recognizable, and
Oh shit, when we get to her perspective again, there's definitely going to be a lot of, oh god, because this is literally the same person that just tortured her. If she survives the next, 10 minutes? 5 minutes, the next 5 minutes, and honestly, that's debatable.
unlike the Imperial's promise to Ayla, it seemed no visible inch of his flesh had been spared the cruel caress of the Inquisitor's knife. He had already bled so much, it was all Ayla could do to hold herself together at the sight of him. Hey,
Oh god, he sounds old.
is that really you? He managed to wheeze out on what strength he had left. Yes, Master, it is me. Hold on, I've got something here, she said, freeing one of her hands to reach down and fumble with something on her belt. No, it will catch... Voss began to mutter. Shh, save your strength, Master. Please save your strength. She insisted to him, finally finding what she was looking for and withdrawing it. Here, breathe, Master. It's Bacta. Breathe in as much as you can,
yeah.
said the Jedi Master, pressing a Bacta rebreather over his mouth and nose. Voss did as instructed, breathing in the blue mist that appeared from within deeply, filling his lungs with it several times until the dispenser was expended. The bleeding stopped almost at once, though he seemed to gain little strength from it, only groaning in the aftermath. I'll get you down from these chains, Ayla said with no small urgency, tossing the spent Bacta device from her hand and calling her saber into
Wyler
it.
Be able
In
to
3
feel
strikes,
force?
she had her master free,
Or
catching
lightsaber.
his collapsing body and kneeling in his blood as she cradled him down towards the ground. I'm sorry. I should have come sooner. Ayla.
I mean, if you had, it probably would have been worse, so... Good on you for making good timing. Or she did. I initially assumed the two options were Wyler's around and just hiding because he's going to torture someone more, or he actually was going to do business. I'm now assuming he's just waiting to make a dramatic entry because drama kid somewhere in the background.
Lamented, seeing how little strength her master had left and how ravaged his body had become.
That's not really enough image for that.
Don't let him catch you.
Wait for it.
The things he will do. He tried to warn her feebly. At this, Ayla's expression tightened, and she nodded. Let's get out of here then. But I am not leaving you behind.
Reveal.
Can you still stand? She would ask.
Probably not.
Voss puffed in a deep breath, hands and legs fumbling, and after a moment of struggle, Ayla managed to nestle herself under his arm and help to lift him up, his feet taking over once he was high enough, though leaning on her heavily. Oh, Master, you've lost so much blood.
And
She
flesh
said,
and hair
worrying
and
for him as
sanity.
she herself became coated in it.
Others.
Voss wheezed.
Just waiting for Wyler to appear.
Leave them.
He finished. The other Jedi are here? Ayla said in shock. Where?
Yeah, that's not going to backfire. She's definitely going to try and save them. And it was... getting one out to let someone know that there are a bunch of captives is probably better. And I have assumed at this point that Wyler is aware that she's here, and that's why he's fucking around.
She asked a moment later. Quinlan used what strength he had to lift his arm, making a thumbs down sign and indicating below.
Holding cells. The ones that didn't scatter. They are down.
Oh, there's actually more survivors that didn't get caught. Honestly, my initial assumption going into this is the blood rain was remains, and that was it, and there's no one else. But if people scattered, there's actually a good potential for a force out there, unless the demon's still playing around. Technically demon host, but at this point it doesn't really count.
The stairs. Sub-level 9.
He managed to say, Okay,
I wonder where...
let's go get them,
No.
said Ayla.
Walking right into the trap.
Not strong enough.
Voss gasped. Don't worry about that, Master. We are not alone, said
You're not
Ayla,
nearly
as
as
8
important.
other Jedi stepped from the shadows, standing tall and ready to fight. Despite his pain and despair, Quinlan managed a smirk.
Good girl.
1, 8. Nice. On the other hand, didn't they have 100 or like dozens to hundreds of Jedi when they fought Wyler with the demon host? If it was just Wyler, that'd be one thing. But, yeah.
Always have the plan.
Voss rasped. Has every one of the others gone through this? Ayla asked.
Maybe not all of them.
Voss shook his head no.
No, I wasn't the first, but I was second.
Who went
Or
first?
the third.
Ayla herself grinned at that, a vicious expression. Then soon we will have more. Hold on tight, Master. We're going to move fast, she said.
Do it, Ayla. No pain I've suffered is above getting payback on that slug. Do me proud.
He gasped, and Ayla nodded stiffly. Hold on tight to me, Master. Like I said, I'm about to move fast. And with that, their shapes blurred as she and the other Jedi took off at a run, matching the speed of speeder bikes as they tore off towards and then down the stairs.
Admittedly, the best thing they could do would have just been get one of the Jedi to take him out, but okay, sure, run right into the obvious trap. Also, just going to point out the double lightsaber. That's stupid. Like, I could see some benefit here if you want to, like, it folds out, but also to have it both on at the same time. That's stupid. God damn you, fan. So, I actually was thinking initially that I was going to check out the next part of this video. And I know the next part is an aftertalk that's significantly longer than the episode itself, and then move on to part 2. But also, I started this on time, later than I intended. Admittedly, I just got distracted when I was getting recording done. I thought I'd be done and it took way too long. Normally, I'd be fine with doing another one, but since I've been doing a couple days of 5 to 6 hour live streams, my wife has given me the ultimatum of no. If I had started this earlier, I probably could swing another hour, but I kind of can't right now. So I'm probably going to need to cut this one here, which means, unfortunately, I have to put the next part off until next week. Although I have been told, and I think earlier in this chat asked if I should actually consider watching the aftertalk as part of the reaction itself. I normally just listen to fans' aftertalks on my own time between videos, and I enjoy it. They're fun. I like his thought process and how he explains his writing and his thoughts regarding the entire franchise. And frankly, I'm one of the idiots who likes to listen to various things about how people think about Star Wars in general, and I will listen to a podcast of literally nothing but that. So I enjoy them. But never really did much of those as a reaction, except for the first one I came across, which probably was not the right thing to add in. Either way, though, I want to leave it up to everyone else if next time I start with the aftertalk, or do I just go on to part 2 immediately? Normally, I just go on to part 2, but if people think there's information in there that fan needs us to listen to, I mean, I'm going to listen to it either way, just one wouldn't be on stream. And again, sorry I can't do the reaction to the second part today. It was planned, but yeah, apparently 5-hour streams multiple days in a row was, I think the term is unacceptable, and I would like to not get divorced immediately. I might be a Doug fan, but I don't want to fully embrace the meme on that one. Yeah. All the same, you guys know the deal. There's a link to Fan's video down below. Hit it up. If you haven't subscribed to Fan, do that now. And if you want, subscribe to me as well, because, hey, yeah. Joking aside, seriously, just go hit up Fan. His writing is awesome on this. The voice acting is good. And I love how he's pulling it together, even if he is way too good at those scenes that feel way too evocative of massive trauma. God damn. Still looking forward to seeing what he has next, though. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.